The morning was calm and quiet. The sun was just rising. Birds were singing softly. People were starting their day. An elderly black man walked slowly down the street. His back was bent. His steps were careful. In his hand, he carried a small paper bag with bread inside. He had lived in this neighborhood for more than 30 years. Everyone knew him. Some people called him Uncle. Some just waved at him. He always smiled back. He was not loud. He was not rude. He never caused trouble. That morning, he was only going to the store. Nothing more. Nothing less. Suddenly, a police car turned the corner. It slowed down. The car followed him. The old man noticed it, but he did not panic. He kept walking. The police car stopped. 2 officers stepped out. Their boots hit the ground hard. "Hey, you there," one officer shouted. The old man stopped. He turned around slowly. "Yes, sir," he said in a calm voice. The officer looked him up and down. "Where are you going?" the officer asked. "To the store," the old man replied. The officer frowned. "What's in the bag?" "Just bread," the old man said, lifting the bag slightly. The second officer stepped closer. "Do you live around here?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I live 2 blocks from here," the old man answered. The officers looked at each other. Their faces were cold. The first officer spoke again. "We got a report of a suspicious person." The old man was confused. "Sir, I'm just walking to the store," he said softly. The officer's voice became sharper. "Turn around." The old man hesitated for a second. Then he slowly turned around. People nearby started to notice. A woman stopped walking. A man across the street looked closer. The second officer grabbed the old man's arm. "Hey, easy," the old man said. "I'm not resisting." But the grip became tighter. "Hands behind your back," the officer ordered. The old man's hands shook slightly as he tried to follow. "I am old," he said quietly. "My shoulders hurt." The officers did not listen. One officer pushed his arms higher. The old man winced in pain. "Please," he said. "I did nothing wrong." A phone camera started recording. Then another. The street was silent. Everyone was watching. The officer pulled out handcuffs. The sound of metal was loud. Click. One cuff closed. The old man lost his balance. He almost fell. "Watch it," an officer snapped. "I am sorry," the old man said, breathing heavy. He was confused. He was scared. He had lived a long life. He had seen hard times before. But this felt different. This felt wrong. A young man from across the street spoke up. "Why are you arresting him?" he asked. The officer turned. "Mind your business," he replied. The old man looked around. He saw fear in people's eyes. But he also saw anger. Still, no one moved. The officer tightened the second cuff. Click. The old man's face showed pain. He did not cry. He did not shout. He stayed quiet. One officer pushed him toward the police car. "Walk," he said. "I can walk," the old man replied. His legs were weak. Each step was slow. The car door opened. The officer pushed him inside. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed. Inside the car, the old man sat quietly. His heart was beating fast. His mind was racing. He asked himself one question again and again. Why is this happening to me? Outside, people were still recording. Whispers filled the air. This is not right. He did nothing. He's too old for this. The officers ignored them. One officer spoke into his radio. The other looked around, nervous. The police car started moving. As it drove away, the old man looked out the window. His eyes were calm. But deep inside, something was breaking. He thought about his life. He thought about his past. And then, he thought about his son. He did not say his son's name. He did not tell the officers anything. He only whispered one sentence to himself. My son taught me to stay calm. The police car turned the corner. No one followed, but the cameras were still rolling. And somewhere far away, a man was about to hear news that would change everything. Because the officers had no idea. No idea at all. This elderly man was not just anyone. And this story was only beginning. The police car stopped in front of the station. The door opened fast. Get out, an officer said. The elderly man moved slowly. His legs felt weak. His hands were still locked behind his back. I am trying, he said quietly. The officer pulled his arm. The old man almost fell. Another officer laughed under his breath. Move faster, he said. Inside the station, everything felt cold. Bright white lights. Hard floors. Loud voices. People stopped talking when they saw him. Some stared. Some looked away. The officer pushed him toward a desk. "Sit," he ordered. The old man sat down slowly. The cuffs cut into his skin. His wrists were red. He looked around the room. Young men in uniforms. Phones ringing. Papers moving. No one asked if he was okay. No one asked his name. One officer leaned over him. "Why were you walking around that area?" he asked. "I live there," the old man replied. The officer smirked. "Sure you do." The old man looked up. His eyes were tired but calm. "I raised my family there," he said. The officer rolled his eyes. "Do you have ID?" "Yes," the old man answered. "It is in my wallet." The officer searched his pockets roughly. The bread fell to the floor. The bag ripped open. The bread rolled away. The old man watched it happen. That bread was his breakfast. The officer pulled out the wallet. He opened it fast. Old photos fell out. A younger man in one photo. Strong. In uniform. The officer barely looked. He threw the photos back. "Looks fake," he said. The old man spoke softly. "That is my son." The officer laughed. "Yeah? And what is he? A superhero?" Some officers nearby chuckled. The old man said nothing. He lowered his head. They took his fingerprints. They took his picture. Each flash of the camera felt like shame. Not because he was guilty, but because he was treated like he was nothing. They placed him in a holding cell. The door closed loudly. Clang. The sound echoed. The cell was small. Cold bench. Dirty floor. He sat down slowly. His back hurt. His hands still hurt. He closed his eyes. He tried to breathe. Across the room, two officers talked. He was acting suspicious, one said. "He fit the description," the other replied. "What description?" another officer asked. They laughed. The old man heard everything. He opened his eyes. His chest felt heavy. Not from fear. From disrespect. Hours passed. No water. No food. No explanation. A young officer walked by. He looked at the old man. For a moment, his face changed. He seemed unsure. "Sir, do you need anything?" he asked quietly. Before the old man could answer, another officer shouted, "Keep moving." The young officer walked away. The old man leaned back against the wall. He thought about his past. He worked 2 jobs. He paid his taxes. He followed the rules. He taught his son to respect the law. He taught him to stay calm. He taught him to never fight hate with hate. Now he wondered, was that enough? A loud voice broke the silence. "Phone call time." The old man stood up slowly. His legs shook. He walked to the phone. The officer pointed. "One call. Make it quick." The old man picked up the phone. His hands trembled. He knew exactly who to call. The phone rang once. Then twice. Then a voice answered. "Dad." The old man swallowed hard. "Yes," he said. "It's me." There was silence on the line. "Are you okay?" the voice asked. "I will be," the old man replied. "What happened?" the voice asked. The old man looked around. Officers were watching. He spoke carefully. "I was arrested," he said. The voice on the phone changed. "How?" it asked. "For walking," the old man answered. Another pause. "Where are you?" the voice asked. "At the station," he said. The officer tapped his watch. The old man spoke quickly. "I need help." "I'm coming," the voice said. The call ended. The officer took the phone. "Time's up," he said. The old man returned to the cell. He sat down again. This time his face was different. Still calm, but stronger. He knew one thing. This would not end quietly. Because the man on the phone was not just his son. And very soon, everyone in that station was going to learn the truth. The elderly man sat alone in the holding cell. The noise of the police station faded away. All he could hear was his own breathing. Slow, deep, controlled. He closed his eyes. The cold bench pressed against his back. His wrists still hurt, but his mind drifted far from that place. Back to a different time. A harder time. He was not always an old man. Once he was strong. He worked long days and longer nights. He woke up before the sun. He came home after dark. His hands were rough. His clothes were worn. But his heart was full. He believed in one simple thing. A man must protect his family, even when the world is unfair. He married young. Life was not easy. Money was always short. Then one day, everything changed. His wife became sick. Very sick. He stood by her bed every night. He prayed quietly. He promised to stay strong. But life had other plans. She passed away when their son was still a child. The elderly man buried his pain. He did not cry in front of his son. He became both father and mother. Every morning, he cooked breakfast. Every night, he helped with homework. He walked his son to school. He taught him to say yes, sir, and no, ma'am. But more than that, he taught him respect. Never judge a person by their uniform, he once said. Judge them by their actions. His son listened. The boy was quiet, different from others. He did not like trouble. He liked discipline. When other kids played outside, he trained his body. When others slept late, he woke up early. The father noticed, but he never pushed. He only guided. Years passed. The boy grew taller, stronger, calmer. One evening, the son came home and stood straight. I want to serve, he said. The father looked at him. Serve who? Serve what? The country, the son replied. The father stayed silent. He knew the risks. He knew the pain. But he also knew his son's heart. If you go, the father said slowly, go with honor. The son nodded. He left soon after. The father watched him walk away. He did not stop him. He did not beg. He only prayed. Years went by. Letters came. Then fewer letters. Then none. The father never asked questions. He trusted his son. He trusted the path he chose. Neighbors would ask, where's your son? The father would smile. He is working, he would say. That was all. He never bragged. Never shared details. He believed real strength stayed quiet. Now, back in the cell, the old man opened his eyes. He heard laughter outside. Officers joking, talking. They had no idea who he was. They saw his age, his skin, his silence. They thought that was weakness. He stood up slowly and walked to the bars. One officer looked over. What are you staring at? The officer asked. Nothing, the old man replied. The officer scoffed and walked away. The old man sat back down. He thought about the call, the sound of his son's voice. Strong, focused, different from before. He knew that voice. It was the same voice from long ago. The voice that said, I will handle this. The old man was not angry. He was not afraid. He was disappointed. Disappointed that respect was gone. Disappointed that age meant nothing. Disappointed that skin still mattered. He looked at his hands. Old hands. Hands that built a life. Hands that raised a good man. A man who believed in justice. A man who believed in order. Somewhere far away, that man was moving fast. Not with anger. With purpose. The old man closed his eyes again. He whispered softly, stay calm. That was his rule. That was his lesson. But he knew the truth now. The world was about to change for everyone in that building. Because the past they ignored, the life they disrespected, had raised someone they could not control. And soon, they would understand who he really was. Far from the small police station, the world moved at a different speed. The air was hot. The ground was dry. A group of men moved quietly through the dark. Their steps were silent. Their faces focused. One man led the group. His eyes scanned everything. Nothing escaped his attention. He was calm. Always calm. To others, he was a commander. To the world, he was invisible. But to one man, he was a son. A sudden vibration broke the silence. The man stopped. He raised his fist. Everyone froze. He reached into his pocket and checked the device. A missed call. Another one. Then a message. Emergency. Call now. His jaw tightened. Only one person used that number. He stepped aside. He pressed call. The line connected. Dad, he said. The voice on the other end was weak, but steady. Yes, the elderly man replied. The son's heart dropped. Are you hurt? He asked. I am okay, the father said. But I am in jail. The words hit hard. The son closed his eyes. For a second, the world stopped. In jail, he repeated. For what? He asked. For walking, the father said. The son said nothing. His breathing changed. Not fast. Not angry. Controlled. Where are you? He asked. At the local station, the father replied. I don't know the name. That was enough. The son looked at his team. Hold position, he said. His voice was quiet, but final. He walked away and made another call. This one was not to family. This one was to power. On the other end, a voice answered quickly. Yes, sir. My father has been detained, the son said. Silence followed. Location, the voice asked. I'm sending it now, he replied. Understood, the voice said. The line went dead. The sun stood still. He looked up at the dark sky. He remembered his father's words. Stay calm. Think first. He followed that lesson. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He moved with precision. Minutes later, his phone buzzed again. Confirmed, the voice said. We are handling it. Back at the police station, the mood was light. Officers laughed. Coffee cups clinked. Paperwork piled up. The elderly man sat quietly in his cell. He heard footsteps. Fast footsteps. A senior officer entered. His face was tight. Who arrested the old man? He asked. Two officers raised their hands. Why? He asked. He matched the description. One replied. What description? The senior officer snapped. The room went silent. The senior officer rubbed his face. Do you know who his son is? He asked. The officer shrugged. The senior officer lowered his voice. He is active military, he said. So what? One officer replied. The senior officer's eyes narrowed. He is special forces, he said. The room changed. Jokes stopped. Smiles faded. What kind? Someone asked. The senior officer paused. Navy SEALs, he said. The words hung in the air. One officer laughed nervously. Is this a joke? It is not, the senior officer replied. Phones started ringing. Screens lit up. Names were checked. Files were opened. The elderly man was removed from his cell. He was taken to a chair. Water was placed in front of him. Sir, please wait, an officer said. The tone was different. Respectful. Almost afraid. The old man nodded. He said nothing. He simply waited. Outside the station, black cars pulled up quietly. No lights. No sirens. Men in clean suits stepped out. They did not rush. They did not speak loudly. They walked inside calmly. One man showed a badge. Another whispered to the senior officer. The senior officer's face turned pale. Where is he? One of the men asked. This way, the officer replied. They stopped in front of the elderly man. One man knelt down. Sir, he said gently, we apologize for the inconvenience. The old man looked at him. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply said, I just want to go home. The man nodded. Yes, sir, he replied. Outside, officers stood frozen. They watched in silence. They finally understood. This was not a normal arrest. This was not a normal family. And somewhere far away, a son was already on his way. Not with anger, but with authority. Because when calm men move, the world listens. The police station no longer felt loud. It felt heavy. Every sound echoed. Footsteps. Paper moving. Doors opening. The elderly man sat quietly in the chair. A cup of water rested in front of him. No handcuffs. No shouting. No loud voices. Only silence. Across the room, officers whispered to each other. What do we do? Who is his son? Is this serious? A senior officer stood near the desk. His hands trembled slightly. He stared at the computer screen. A name flashed on the screen. Then another file opened. Red warnings appeared. He swallowed hard. This is real, he whispered. The two officers who made the arrest stood apart. Their confidence was gone. The loud voices were gone. One officer wiped sweat from his forehead. He never told us, he said. The senior officer turned sharply. He didn't have to, he replied. A phone rang. Everyone froze. The senior officer answered. Yes, yes, sir, understood. He hung up slowly. He looked at the room. This has reached federal level, he said. No one spoke. One officer dropped his pen. The sound felt too loud. The elderly man looked around. He saw fear. Not fear of danger. Fear of consequences. He leaned back slightly. His voice was calm. I don't want trouble, he said. Everyone turned to him. I just want respect, he continued. No one answered. Outside, more cars arrived. Not police cars. Black vehicles. Clean. Silent. Men stepped out with calm faces. They walked in like they owned the place. No one stopped them. They did not ask for permission. One man spoke softly. We need the arrest report, he said. Another asked, where is the body cam footage? Officers rushed to obey. Screens showed the video. The street. The bread bag. The handcuffs. The fall. Every second played again. No one spoke. The room watched in shame. One officer muttered. He didn't resist. Another whispered. He was polite. The senior officer closed his eyes. This is bad, he said. Very bad. A door opened. A man in uniform walked in. His posture was perfect. His eyes were sharp. No name was said. None was needed. Everyone knew. The man walked straight to the elderly man. He stopped. He stood tall. Then slowly, he saluted. The room froze. No one breathed. The elderly man looked up. He recognized that salute. He had seen it once before. Long ago. The man lowered his hand. "Sir," he said respectfully, "I am sorry." The old man nodded. That was all. The salute said everything. One officer stepped back in shock. "He's really?" he whispered. "Yes," someone replied. The senior officer cleared his throat. "All officers involved are relieved of duty," he announced. Faces turned pale. "This department will cooperate fully," he continued. One officer tried to speak. "We were just doing our job." "Your job is to protect," the senior officer snapped. Silence returned. The elderly man stood up slowly. He looked around the room. "This place needs change," he said. "No anger. No threats. Just truth." He walked toward the exit. Officers moved out of the way. Doors opened before him. Outside, cameras waited. Flashes exploded. Questions shouted. The elderly man paused. He raised one hand. The noise stopped. "I forgive," he said simply. "But I will not forget." The words hit harder than any shout. Inside the station, officers sat in silence. Their world had shifted. They thought power came from badges. They learned power came from discipline, from calm, from truth. Far away, a helicopter cut through the sky. Inside, a man sat quietly. His eyes were closed. Mission complete, but not finished. Because justice was not only about force. It was about accountability. And this story was moving toward an ending no one expected. The police station felt smaller now. The walls did not change. The lights were the same. But the power inside the building had shifted. Officers walked slower. They spoke in low voices. No one laughed anymore. The two officers who made the arrest sat in a small room. No badges on their chests. No radios on their belts. Just silence. One officer stared at the floor. His hands shook. "I was just doing my job," he said. No one answered. The other officer rubbed his face. "We didn't know," he whispered. The door opened. An investigator stepped in. He placed a file on the table. "This is no longer an internal matter," he said. "This is a federal investigation." The words crushed the room. Body cam footage played again. Every push, every word, every moment of disrespect. The investigator paused the video. "You had no reason," he said. The officer said nothing. Outside the room, news spread fast. Media trucks lined the street. Cameras pointed at the station. Headlines appeared online. Elderly man wrongly arrested. Racial bias under investigation. Police conduct questioned. Inside, the elderly man sat in a quiet office. A warm blanket rested on his shoulders. A doctor checked his wrists. "Minor injury," the doctor said. The old man nodded. "I will heal," he replied. A city official entered. He cleared his throat. "Sir, we deeply regret what happened," he said. The old man looked at him. "Regret is not enough," he replied calmly. The official looked down. The old man continued. "You must teach your people respect." The official nodded slowly. "Yes, sir," he said. Outside, officers watched from behind glass. They saw something they never expected. Real authority. No shouting. No threats. Just truth. Across the station, the young officer from earlier stood alone. He watched everything. He remembered asking if the old man needed help. He felt shame. "I should have done more," he whispered. A senior officer approached him. "You will," he said. "Learn from this." The young officer nodded. Across the street, a black vehicle waited. The elderly man stepped outside. Cameras flashed. Questions filled the air. He raised his hand again. The crowd went quiet. "I'm an old man," he said. "My bones are weak, but my voice is still strong." The crowd listened. "I asked for justice," he continued. "Not revenge." Applause followed. Inside the station, the two officers were escorted out. No sit-ins. No cuffs. Just consequences. Their careers were over. Their names would follow them. They walked past their co-workers. No one spoke. They had lost something important. Trust. Later that evening, the station released a statement. Policy changes announced. Training promised. Review boards formed. Words filled the screen. But everyone knew. This moment would be remembered. Somewhere above the city, a helicopter passed. Inside sat a man in civilian clothes. He watched the city lights below. He made a quiet call. "It's done," he said. The voice on the other end replied, "Good." He ended the call. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He only thought of his father, the man who taught him patience, the man who taught him restraint. Back at home, the elderly man sat in his chair, a cup of tea in his hands. The house was quiet, safe. He looked at an old photo on the wall, a young man in uniform. He smiled softly. They listened, he said to himself. But deep down, he knew something. This was not just about him. This was about change, about showing the world that power without respect fails. And the story was ready for its final chapter. The house was quiet. The elderly man sat by the window. Morning light touched his face. His hands rested on his knees. They still showed marks from the handcuffs, but his eyes were peaceful. A knock came at the door. Slow, respectful. He stood up and walked carefully. When he opened the door, a man stood there. Tall, strong, calm. No uniform, no weapons, just presence. The elderly man smiled. "You came home," he said. The man nodded. "Yes, Dad," he replied. They hugged. Not tight, not long, just enough. They sat together in the living room. No words for a moment. The son looked around. Everything was the same. The old chair, the small table, the faded photos. "This place never changes," the son said. The father smiled. "It does not need to," he replied. The son looked at his father's wrists. His jaw tightened. "I'm sorry," he said. The father raised his hand. "No," he said gently. "You did right." They drank tea together. The news played softly on the TV. Images of the police station. Headlines. Public talks. The son turned it off. "They are talking now," the son said. "They must," the father replied. Outside, the world moved fast. Online debates. City meetings. New rules discussed. But inside the house, time slowed down. The father spoke. "Power is quiet," he said. "When it shouts, it is weak." The son listened. "He always did. I taught you to stay calm." The father continued. "You did. I taught you to respect life." "You did." The father looked at him. "And you used that lesson well." The son looked down. "I was ready to fight," he admitted. "But I remembered your voice." The father nodded. "That is strength." Days passed. The city announced reforms. Training changed. Leaders spoke about fairness. Some meant it. Some did not. But the story had already traveled far. People talked about the old man, not as a victim, but as a symbol. One afternoon, the father walked outside. Neighbors waved. Some clapped. Some cried. He raised his hand gently. "Thank you," he said. Later, he sat alone again. The son was leaving soon. Another mission. Another silence. Before leaving, the son stood at the door. "I will always protect you," he said. The father smiled. "You already did," he replied. The son paused, then saluted. Slow, respectful. The father returned it. Not as a soldier, as a father. The door closed. The house became quiet again. The father sat down. He looked at the sky through the window. The sun was warm. The street was calm. He thought about that morning. The police car, the handcuffs, the fear, and how it ended. He whispered softly, "Justice does not need noise." The camera fades. Text appears on the screen. Respect is the real power. The end. But the message remains.